Okay, so think about this for a second. Your morning coffee,
Yeah.
that whole ritual, right? The smell, the warmth, it gets you going.
Absolutely. It's a daily staple for millions.
But what if that cup was doing more? Like way more than just waking you up? What if it was actually, slowing down how your body ages?
It's a really intriguing idea, isn't it? And it's exactly what we're digging into today. There's this new paper just out in 2024,
Oh, yeah? Which journal?
Food and Function, and it tackles this very question head on. Can your coffee habit impact biological aging?
Right. So our goal here is basically to unpack this research for you. We want to make sense of the science, the methods they used.
The findings, which are pretty surprising, actually.
Exactly. And what it all might mean. So by the end of this deep dive, hopefully, you'll look at that coffee cup a little differently.
Definitely. So first things first, we probably need to clarify what we mean by biological aging.
Good point. It's not just your birthday number, is it?
Not at all. It's much more complex. It's about how your organs, your systems are actually functioning over time, how old your body acts, not just how many years it's been around.
Okay, so if it's not just counting years, how do scientists measure that? How did this study approach it?
They used some pretty sophisticated algorithms. The main ones in this paper were PhenoAge and KDM-BA. That second one stands for Chimera Double Method Biological Age.
Right.
And essentially, these algorithms look at a whole panel of biomarkers from like standard blood tests, things related to inflammation, kidney function, blood cell counts.
Stuff you might get checked in a regular physical.
Pretty much, yeah. Plus things like blood pressure, cholesterol. PhenoAge even factors in your actual chronological age. It pulls all this data together to estimate your biological age.
Okay, and these scores, PhenoAge and KDM-BA. What does a positive advancement mean? Is it good or bad?
Right, so a positive advancement means your biological age is higher than your chronological age. Basically accelerated aging.
Got it. Faster aging.
And a negative advancement, well, that's the goal. It suggests slower aging, your body's functioning younger than its years. They also mention telomere length.
Ah, telomeres. Those caps on our chromosomes.
Exactly. Longer telomeres are generally linked to better health, longevity, and other studies have actually found coffee consumption seems to be positively related to telomere length too. So there's some prior context there.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about this specific study. Where did the data come from? Because that's always crucial.
Absolutely. This is a big strength here. The data comes from NHANES.
NHANES. That's the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey.
That's the one. It's a huge nationally representative survey run by the CDC in the U.S. Really high-quality data, rigorous methods. So the foundation is solid.
And a large sample size, I gather. How many people?
Oh, yeah, impressive numbers. We're talking 13,384 adults.
Wow. And how did they figure out how much coffee these people drank?
They used 2 detailed 24-hour dietary questionnaires. So asking people exactly what they ate and drank over a couple of days.
Okay. And what was the average coffee intake?
On average, it came out to about 1.73 cups per day across the whole group.
And I saw they broke people down into categories based on consumption.
They did, which is helpful. So about 41% drank no coffee at all. Then you had 9% drinking up to 1 cup a day.
Okay.
Then 29% were in the 1 to 3 cups a day range. And finally, 21% drank more than 3 cups daily.
Right. That gives us a good picture. So the moment of truth, what did they find? Did coffee connect to biological age?
It really did. The main takeaway was pretty clear. Higher coffee consumption was linked to a younger biological age compared to chronological age.
Younger, so lower scores on those Pheno and KDM-BA advancement metrics.
Exactly. Lower mean advancements. They even put some numbers on it for the whole group. Compared to just chronological age, PhenoAge advancement was lower by about 3 years.
3 years.
And KDM-BA advancement was lower by about 2.4 years.
That's actually quite significant. And this wasn't just a fluke, right? They accounted for other lifestyle factors.
Oh, yeah. They adjusted for a lot of things. Age, gender, ethnicity, income, education, smoking, drinking, BMI, physical activity, diet quality, sleep. The works.
Okay.
And even after all those adjustments, the inverse relationship held up. More coffee was associated with lower biological age advancement and a lower chance of accelerated aging.
Was there like a perfect amount, a dose response?
Yeah, there was a definite pattern. Drinking 1 to 3 cups a day showed a benefit. A reduction of 0.13 years in PhenoAge advancement and 0.05 in KDM-BA.
Okay, a measurable effect.
But interestingly, drinking more than 3 cups a day showed an even bigger reduction, 0.16 years for PhenoAge and 0.13 for KDM-BA.
So more was slightly better, up to a point.
It seems so, but crucially, drinking less than 1 cup a day didn't show a statistically significant link, so you needed at least that 1 to 3 cup range to see the benefit.
So it wasn't just a straight line up, more coffee, always better.
No, it looked more like a significant benefit kicking in around 1 cup, maybe slightly increasing with more, and then potentially leveling off, a sort of plateau.
Interesting. And this applied pretty broadly across different people.
Yeah, that was another key finding. These associations were consistent across all the age and gender groups they looked at.
I think I saw something about physical activity and weight playing a role. A bit of nuance there.
Ah, yes, good catch. There was some heterogeneity, as they call it, specifically for people who had a normal weight but were inactive or didn't get sufficient physical activity. They didn't find a significant link between coffee and the PhenoAge advancement or the risk of accelerated aging based on PhenoAge.
So activity matters. Coffee isn't a substitute for moving your body. Shocker.
Well, not quite that simple either, because for those same normal weight people, they did still find a notable correlation between coffee drinking and the KDM-BA advancement.
Okay, so it's complicated. But the bottom line is physical activity seems to interact with coffee's effects somehow.
Exactly. It just highlights that, coffee isn't operating in a vacuum. It's part of your overall lifestyle. And things like activity levels can influence the outcome.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, so let's get into the how. Any ideas how coffee might be doing this? Is it just the caffeine buzz making our cells feel young?
Well, that's one of the most fascinating parts, actually. The study found that both caffeinated and decaffeinated coffee were linked to a younger biological age.
Really? Decaf, too. Especially at the higher intakes, like over 3 cups.
Yep. Which strongly suggests it's not just the caffeine. There must be other compounds in coffee doing some of the work.
Okay, so what are these other suspects? The non-caffeine components?
The paper points to a few key players. You've got chlorogenic acids, or CGAs. Those are major antioxidants in coffee. Then there are polysaccharides and also melanoidins, which form during roasting.
CGAs, polysaccharides, melanoidins. Right. And how might those things affect aging pathways in our bodies?
They seem to work through several routes. One big one is inflammation. Coffee, the CGAs, even caffeine have anti-inflammatory properties. Chronic inflammation is a huge driver of aging, so anything that dampens pathways like NF2 is potentially beneficial.
Okay, anti-inflammatory action. What else?
Oxidative stress is another key area. Coffee seems to boost our internal antioxidant defenses, possibly by activating something called the NRF2 pathway.
NRF2.
Yeah, it's like a master switch that turns on protective genes against oxidative damage, so less damage accumulating over time. The study also mentions potential effects on immune function and even pathways involved in cancer development.
So compounds in coffee might help regulate inflammation, fight oxidative stress, maybe modulate immunity. That sounds pretty comprehensive.
It does suggest multiple mechanisms might be at play, which makes sense given how complex aging is.
And this fits with other research on coffee's health benefits too, doesn't it? The paper touched on that broader picture.
Absolutely. It reinforces what we've seen elsewhere. Coffee consumption is linked to better cardiovascular health, lower risk of dying from heart attack or stroke.
Right. I've heard that one.
Also, protection against some cancers, potentially slowing down neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Plus, things like better cognitive function, lower risk of type 2 diabetes.
Exactly. Improved insulin sensitivity. And lower risk of liver problems like cirrhosis or liver cancer. It really does have quite the health resume.
It really does. But we always need to be careful, right? No study is perfect. What are the important caveats here? The limitations.
Definitely need to keep those in mind. First, this was a cross-sectional study, a snapshot in time.
Meaning it shows associations, but can't prove cause and effect.
Precisely. We see a link between coffee drinking and younger biological age, but we can't say for sure that the coffee caused it. Maybe people who drink more coffee just happen to have other healthy habits we couldn't fully account for.
That's always the challenge with observational studies. What else?
Well, the coffee intake was self-reported, people filling out questionnaires about what they ate and drank.
And people aren't always perfect at remembering or reporting accurately.
Right, there can be some bias there. And while they controlled for many, many potential confounders like we listed before, socioeconomic factors, lifestyle habits, there's always the possibility that some other unmeasured factor is influencing the results.
Okay, important context. And what about the amount? The study found benefits, but is there a point where too much coffee becomes a problem?
Yes, and the paper itself mentions this. Moderation is key. While beneficial effects were seen, excessive consumption, say, regularly going over 4 or maybe 5 cups a day, could potentially have downsides for some people.
Like what?
Things like increased risk for certain issues, maybe digestive problems, anxiety, definitely sleep disruption for many. So it's not a license to drink unlimited amounts.
Got it. Benefits seem to peak or plateau, and too much might negate them or cause other issues.
That seems to be the sensible takeaway.
So wrapping this up then, what's the main message for, for someone listening who enjoys their daily coffee?
I think the big picture is this study adds strong evidence for a significant link between regular coffee consumption, maybe in that 1 to 3 or more cups range, and potentially slower biological aging.
It gives us another reason to appreciate that cup, beyond just the caffeine kick.
Definitely. It adds this whole other dimension related to how our bodies are aging internally.
And that finding about decaf also having benefits.
Right.
That's really provocative, isn't it?
It really is. It makes you wonder, what else is in coffee that's so beneficial? Could we isolate these compounds? Does it point towards other foods or drinks that might have similar undiscovered anti-aging secrets?
Yeah. Lots to think about. It certainly puts a whole new perspective on that simple morning ritual. Maybe it's doing more for you than you ever realized.